A new report from the White House Office of Management and Budget indicates that the deficit has ballooned considerably under the Trump administration and is set to get worse. And the debt that the US will accumulate will be close to $21 trillion, I believe it is.
I think it's 25 trillion.
25 trillion. Well, let me give you the numbers. I have them in front of me. So this report by the White House Office of Management and Budget released these new projections, and it shows that the federal budget deficit will hit nearly $900 billion this year and will top $1 trillion by next year. And yes, you're right, Cenk, $25 trillion. Federal debt will hit $25 trillion in fiscal year 2021. For full fiscal details after Trump took office under the OMB's own estimates. So again, this is an analysis that's happening, through the White House, through this office, and it shouldn't be surprising because the tax era, the Trump era tax cuts have a very negative effect on how things run in the country. And of course we're gonna have this ballooning deficit as a result.
So part of the reason I tell you guys things ahead of time is so you can understand and do the analysis yourself. And then so you know that we're not just criticizing people in hindsight, which is super easy to do, right? So anybody who's watched the Young Turks for a long time knows that I've told you, and I know this because I cared about deficits and I used to be a Republican when I was younger, right? And one of the reasons I left the Republican Party is because I realized they're totally lying. They don't care about the deficit at all. They always make it worse. And when Trump got in office, I told you, he would do massive tax cuts for the rich and it would blow up the deficit and they wouldn't care at all. And that's exactly what happened. Because their priority is not about the deficit. Their priority is wealth redistribution to the top. So there's two ways that they do that. The primary way is lower taxes on the rich and lower taxes on corporations. And Trump did that to the tune of $1.5 trillion. Actually, the latest estimate is now $1.9 trillion, okay? And then the second way they do that is then they go, oh, deficits. We gotta cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps, what they call entitlements. Now, things like Social Security and Medicare you are entitled to because you paid taxes your whole life into those funds so that you can get it when you are retired, right? But they make it seem like, oh, I guess you think you're entitled to this. Meanwhile, they're giving away the store to the rich and they're blowing up the deficit. And so right now, the Paul Ryans of the world going, we gotta cut these entitlements. We gotta cut them, we're out of money.
Well, yeah.
And now, by the way, in the midst of all this, they're planning for new tax cuts for the rich in September. Yep. Unbelievable.
And by the way, just going back to what you said about Republicans claiming that they care about the deficit, but when it comes to action, they show that they don't care about the deficit at all. Representative Kevin Brady from Texas has met with Donald Trump this week, and he said the following: "We're here to talk to you about making permanent this tax relief. We can protect them against future Washington trying to steal back those hard-earned dollars that you and the Republican Congress has given them." So some of the tax cuts for the wealthy are supposed to expire, and he does not want them to expire. He wants them to be permanent. And so that is the next step that the Trump administration is planning to take.
So I want to make sure that you understand the numbers, because the $1 trillion that Trump's going to hit in the deficit is going to happen if they do nothing. It's already set in stone, okay? And the $25 trillion that we have in debt that we will have just in a couple of years in 2021, that's already done. What Kevin Brady is proposing and what Trump wants to do is a new round of tax cuts for the rich, which would actually extend the tax cuts for the rich beyond 2026. The ones for corporations, they're the most important donors. Those are already set in stone and they don't sunset, so they are permanent, right? Now, a new Congress and a new president could make a new law, but if they don't change anything, those are permanent. What they're saying is the individual ones were gonna run out in 2026 because otherwise the price tag would have been even more monstrous. Now they're saying, hey, we did it, we stole all the money, and we did wealth redistribution, and there was no price to pay. Let's do it again. But now we'll blow up the deficit even more. So what? 90% of Republican voters still support Trump. They don't care about deficits. They never cared about deficits. So let's just go rob them one more time. This is the great American robbery. And
by the way, this is something that millennials will have to pay for in the future.
Yes.
So insult to injury, just keeping it 100.
And Larry Kudlow, the head of the National Economic Council, who had always warned about deficits when he was anchor on television, now says, oh no, they're declining. Totally untrue, a liar just like his boss. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.